Hello friends, welcome to Shiksharthi. Now in this video, we'll be dealing with a topic by the name of syllogisms. So now when we are talking about syllogisms, you will see that I have divided this entire discussion into 4 parts. Now when I say 4 parts, in the first part we'll be talking about the terms that we'll be using. In the second part, we will talk about the concepts being used. Even in the third part, we are going to talk about the concepts. But there would be a small difference. So you will see here we are going to talk about the verbal concepts. Now when I say verbal, I am basically talking about English. Now when I talk about English, what are the concepts that we are going to use? We are going to use all those concepts which we would have done till date in all the videos of mine. For things like greater than, lesser than, between, among, amongst, and then what are adjectives, etc. is what we are doing. In addition to this, sentences and statements would be used as a major part here. We'll be talking about sentences and statements. Now when I talk about the maths concepts being used, we'll be basically talking about Venn diagrams, right, which we have already done. And then once we have done all these 3 things, then we'll talk about how to apply it in daily life and how to apply all these concepts for particular exams. So coming down to the terms. So the terms that we use here are broadly, 2 terms are what we use here. And the first term that we'll be using here would be universal, and the second term is particular. And then we would say that now, so when I say particular and universal, what is universe? I mean, when we talk about something as a whole is universe and a part of it. So can I say that a part will always be a subset of the universe if I have to understand it with the help of a Venn diagram? And with the help of verbal logic, we already know that part by definition is part of something. Now part of something here is part of a universe. So now this discussion can be divided into 4 parts. How? I can take a positive discussion of the universe, a negative discussion of the universe. Now when I say universe, I am basically talking about words like all, each, every. These are universally affirmative words. Now when I say affirmative, what do I mean is statements which are positive in nature. For example, I can say all A's are B's. This is an affirmative, universally affirmative sentence, right? Similarly, if I talk about universally negative statement or a sentence, it's basically like saying no A's are B's. Similarly, when I talk about particularly affirmative, I'll say what some A's are B's. And when I talk about particularly negative sentences or statements, some A's are not B's. Going further, when we talk about the various words being used, I can say all, each and every are basically synonymous words. They're synonyms to each other. So if I say all A's are B's or each A is B, every A is a B, is just like saying what? All. And when I say no, none, not, is just like saying no. Words like few, certain, little, many, more, most, several, specific, etc. are just like synonyms of the word some. And if I combine universally negative and particularly affirmative words, I can get what? Particularly negative words. Words like some not, few not, or not few, not many, not more, not most, not several, etc. So here, if I talk about particularly negative, I can simply say what? Some not. And the remaining words, they become synonyms of the word some not. In short, all represents the entire fraternity of words under the head of universally affirmative sentences or words. No represents the entire fraternity of universally negative words. Some represents the entire fraternity of particularly affirmative words, and some not represents the entire community of particularly negative words. Going further, so let's say next stage. So as we are building up the concepts, so going further, can I say particular is a subset of universal? Of course, this is something that we had already discussed. Similarly, now when I know that particular is what? Either some or some not. Whether I talk about particularly affirmative, that is also some. And if I talk about particularly negative, that will be some not. Using this logic, can I say some will always be a subset of all? Yeah. And some not will always be a subset of no. I hope you got it. Taking this discussion forward, now since we have already discussed these two things, the third concept that we need to discuss here is how to represent these sentences or statements mathematically, is what we are going to understand. And before we go ahead, let us talk about how is a sentence formed. I mean, sentence will always have a subject and a predicate. A predicate will always have an object in it. Okay? So, if I were to put it like this side is just like saying what? The subject part of it. And this side is just like saying what? Object part of it. So we can always change the subject and the object also. It is just like saying, if I say all A's are B's, does it lead to saying the same as all B's are A's? This we will understand over a period of time as we progress. Okay. So you will see that mathematical concepts have been further divided into two parts. One is the basic diagram that I am talking about. What is the basic diagram? What is the first impression of the statement that you get? Gives you the hint to draw the basic diagram. For example, if I say all A's are B's, I'll say what? All A's are B's. So the shaded portion signifies this quantifier. Now when I say this is the quantifier, I'm basically talking about adjectives. Can I say most of these words that I have used here are either can be used as adjectives or they can be used as pronouns. So you will see that most of the words that we'll be using under the head of syllogisms or logic. Now syllogism has a logic in it, L-O-G-I. We'll be using quantifiers only. Now quantifiers like all, none, many, more, most, little, few, and so on. So some of these quantifiers may be universal and the remaining would be particular. And then the remaining as we have discussed. So going forward, so if I had to draw the basic diagram of this is what I'm going to draw. So all A is represented by this shaded portion, are B's. B is the object here. Similarly, if I say some A's are B's, what is the basic diagram that you are going to draw based on this piece of information or based on this statement? So I'll say that they have some point of intersection. Now what is intersection? They are having some common qualities, common traits is the point of intersection, which is represented by this shaded portion. Similarly, when I say no A's or B's, that means A and B will have no point of intersection. Another way to understand this mathematically is A intersection B is a phi. Phi means the set does not exist. They are mutually exclusive to each other. They do not have anything in common between them. Mark the words being used, between, because we are talking about two things. Okay, the last, when I say particularly negative statements, some A's are not B's. So the basic diagram that will come to me is no A is a B, because I know that some not is a subset of no. Once I have understood the basic diagram, I can always draw some alternative diagrams also. For example, when I am saying all A's are B's, what is the alternative diagram that I can draw? I can say that maybe the radius of A and radius of B is the same. Or another way to put it as is, the cardinal number of A is equal to the cardinal number of B. What is cardinal? Count. Or the area of representation, another way to understand this. The quantity of A is equal to quantity of B. Further, if I have to understand this with the help of some alternative, I can say what? I can say some A's are B's, which is just like saying all A's are B's. Or I can say that the entire set is A and some of the A's inside are B's. Right? Or I can say what? I know that sum is a subset of all. Right? I know this. So I can draw it as an alternative diagram like this, which is just like saying what? Quantity of A is equal to quantity of B. In short, when I'm saying some A's are B's, all I need to understand here is quantity of A may be equal to quantity of B, or quantity of A may be lesser than quantity of B, or quantity of A may be greater than quantity of B. Right? Based on this, we draw 4 diagrams. Now when I say no A's or B's, this is nothing but saying the same. The only thing is here A, B and B, A. That doesn't make any difference. Now combination has nothing to do with the arrangement. So the last here, when we are discussing some A's and not B's, as an alternative diagram, I can make what? A and B. Here A and B are not intersecting. And when they are intersecting, then there is a portion which is specific only to A, but not common to B. That is the portion that we are talking about here. Right? Last but not the least, now when I take A as a superset, when I am taking B inside A, definitely I would say what? Now when I am saying some A's are not B's, I need to understand there are some A's which are not B's. So if this is B, these are the A's that I am talking about, wherein I would say some A's are not B's. I hope you understood this. Now taking this discussion forward, once I have understood all these things, for this you can always go through the session once again, because the session would be a recorded one for you. You can always rewind and revisit, and once you feel that you're okay with the concepts and the usage of all these terms and the concepts, then we talk about the application stage, how to use it in daily life or how to use it in various exams. Or why should I wait for an exam? I should start using it in daily life. How should I use it in daily life? Let us take an example of the same. Now you will see that any aptitude exam generally has 3 stages. So let us say the first stage is wherein you are supposed to write the exam, followed by, let's say, a counseling session or a group discussion session, followed by a personal interview. Now if I have to represent this with the help of a diagram, how will I represent this? So there are 2 ways. I am talking about these diagrams. Which diagram is the correct one? I have written the exam first. Then the next stage I am supposed to go through is the stage only when I get shortlisted for the next stage. Let's say the next stage is group discussion stage, which is this, and the final stage is personal interview. This is one way of drawing it. Another way of drawing it is personal interview, group discussion and written. Now a general misconception is people would say, oh, the first stage is the written stage, so written should come inside, followed by group discussion, which is the next stage, followed by personal interview, which is the final stage. But let us apply some logic here. I would say that this is incorrect, and even without drawing this, I should have seen what? The first stage will eliminate some element of people, some number of people would be eliminated after the first stage. Similarly, after the second stage, some people would be further eliminated. So the number of people, those who will be left for the final stage, which is personal interview, would be the minimum out of the 3 stages, right? So that means personal interview should occupy the minimum possible space, which is this. The next space should be occupied by the second stage, and the maximum number of people would have sat down during the written stage of the exam. So which is correct? This is correct. Now if I have to make a formula out of this, I can always say the first stage, second stage, third stage, which should become the superset, the first stage, which is the written stage. This becomes the superset, followed by a subset of it. So the second stage becomes your subset, and the third stage is a further subset of the second stage. I hope this part is clear. Similarly, in my earlier video, you would have gone through, I had taken you through statements and sentences. So using the same logic now, let us say there are few statements, sentences that I want to make with the help of 2 words, sentences and statements. So I can say what? All statements are sentences. Or I can say what? All sentences are statements. Which one is correct? Let me use the same logic. So we discussed, for a sentence to become a statement, the first stage is it should be a declarative sentence. The first stage is should be a sentence, and then if I am able to answer it in the form of yes or no, if I am able to answer a declarative sentence in the form of yes or no, it is then only I take it to a next stage, which is, can I answer this statement in the form of sentence in the form of either yes only or no only? then it becomes what? A statement, right? So few minutes back we talked about the first stage should be the superset. So meaning thereby, there are some sentences which are not statements, which are correct. And which sentences are we talking about? We are talking about sentences like exclamatory sentences, interrogative and imperative. And which sentences and statements would intersect? The declarative part of it. The last but not the least for today, taking a topic of mathematics. So if I say C is for congruency and S is for similarity, there are two statements that I am using now. One is all C's, all congruent triangles are similar. And the second statement that I am using here is all similar triangles are congruent. Which between them is correct? I can use the same logic. Which is the first step for congruency? The triangles need to be similar. And it is only when the triangles are similar, which is a prerequisite. So as we discussed earlier also, the first step is a necessary but not a sufficient condition. So the sufficient condition would be what? If I say that the triangles are similar, which we are talking about angles. And now when we talk about the sides being equal, so it is then only the triangles would be congruent. So which diagram should be correct? This, and this becomes incorrect. So if you liked whatever was discussed today, and if you feel that it was really knowledgeable, please do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel. If you have already done so, please turn on the bell icon so that you can start receiving updates. Thank you so much. Until next time we meet, goodbye.